this episode of the podcast, I talk with David Keogh and Alice Wells, and we go over their upcoming film that they're working on now called John Sunshine's Lost Rock and Roll Tapes. It's a horror comedy TV series that they're working on, so we talk about that on this podcast and some other things. We also go over some werewolf films that we all like and, some stuff that inspired them to get into writing and stuff like that. So hope you enjoy this podcast, and I will leave some notes and links to their stuff on the notes section of the podcast. All right. Thank you all for being on the podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. It's nice to be here.
Could you give like a short introduction to yourselves for my audience knows like what's going on and everything like that?
Okay, you go first, Alice. Oh, Alice has gone quiet. She's on mute. Alice, you're on mute. I'll go first. So, I'm David Keogh, and I'm the co-writer and co-creator of John Sunshine's Lost Rock and Roll Tapes, a horror TV series that we're writing at the moment, as well as many other things, an actor, a father, and loads of other things too.
That's killer, man. Yeah, I was looking at your IMDb and stuff, and you played in a bunch of stuff, and the new film you're working on here looks really cool and up my alley. Rock and roll and horror. So, I mean,
it's very cool. Sorry, go on, Alice.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So I'm Alice Wells. I'm the co-creator and co-writer of John Sunshine's Lost Rock and Roll Tapes. And I'm also an executive producer, and I've got a couple of films that I'm the executive producer of, short films, including another TV pilot, Sizzle, that's also a self-contained short that stars Bob Pendennen and Eddie Steeple. And then,
Alice, it's really bizarre, but you sound like you're underwater at the moment. Are you in the bath?
No, you guys sound the same way to me.
Right.
Yeah, very strange. Yeah, it's no telling. Skype does its thing every once in a while and like screws up, but it should sound all right in the end. So hopefully.
Okay. So David and I are also the new executive producers to a film called I Want to Live on Mars. So we're really excited about that. And then, like you said, we're looking to film our TV pilot in January for John Sunshine.
Nice. And I guess we can do this like one at a time. How did y'all get your start in film? Like, what's the origin stories?
Origin stories. Oh dear. Well, I won't start from the beginning because that'll take up most of the podcast. But basically, 7 years ago, I gave up my day job, working in a bank, catching baddies, bad bankers, and various other things I did in the bank. I didn't know what to do. I started writing a novel, but realized very quickly that I got very bored very quickly, and ended up becoming an actor instead, because it's what I always wanted to do, and I had a bit of time on my hands. And then I taught myself to act. I taught myself to screenwrite, and that's what I've been doing for the last 7 years is writing and acting. And it was actually doing some acting that I met Alice actually on a actor read through of an Alien script, which one of our friends, Tim Westland, wrote. So yeah, it was that was how we bumped into each other originally.
Well, that's killer.
Yeah, I unfortunately have not been able to quit my day job. So I still do my day job, my real career. I actually just started writing this year, even though I had, a lot of stories in my head all my life. But I just finally started writing this year and found out that I could write pretty well very quickly. And as David mentioned, I met him and some of the other people, actors and crew people that are part of John Sunshine through Twitter and the table read. And when I found out what a great actor David was, I asked him to play the main bad guy in John Sunshine, and he did, and all of our actors did such an amazing job. We were like, we have got to film this. So that was back in May, and now we started a production company, and we've written nearly all of the episodes for the first season, and we're about to fundraise.
Nice. Yeah, I saw you have a Kickstarter going on, correct? I think it was on Twitter and stuff. And it is a Kickstarter, not a GoFundMe, right? Or Indiegogo?
It's actually Seed and Spark, not Kickstarter.
Okay.
But it's a similar type of thing, yeah.
Well,
Okay.
it's just a different platform. Seed and Spark is dedicated solely to, film projects, rather than, just any kind of project. So that's one of the reasons that we chose that platform.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah, that way it all goes to, the film and everything like that. That's definitely cool. I haven't heard of that one before, so.
I think because it's literally just for films and for these types of projects, it's more likely that people will go in there looking for them to fund things. So I think sometimes on things like Kickstarter, you can get quite lost looking around in there. So we're hoping that people who are going in there will go in there to look to fund things, and they'll like our project.
Okay, killer. And y'all said mostly everything's written for their first season. How about anything filmed yet, or you're waiting for like all the Kickstarter stuff to, not Kickstarter, but you know what I mean, all that, the funding and all to start happening?
Cool. One thing at a time, Brandon. We're writing the episodes at the moment because it's a very complex series. There's a lot more happening than you think as you go through, and one of the ways of writing that is to write the 10 episodes as there is, and then it means we have to go back and just make sure that we don't forget to write anything else in the first episode, which is the one we're going to film, the pilot, because there's lots of clues and lots of clever things we're doing with the characters, which I think if you could see some of the stuff we've written down, it's insane, and it's getting more insane every episode. But we actually need to have all 10 episodes finished in order to be able to even work out what we're doing in the first one. So there's a lot of work still to do, I think, before we can start filming anything really.
Mm-hmm. And what are the inspirations for the TV series? What inspired it?
Well, it started with a small tagline, Final Tap meets Dexter, and I had the idea of what if a rock star killed his fans while he was on tour. But I love Final Tap. I love found footage. I grew up, listening to classic rock and metal. Scream magazine was plastered all over my wall. So we incorporated Scream magazine into the pilot and into the series. Also, we have original music, both for the pilot and for the series, both original songs and music that is written and performed by me and our music director, and one of our actors named Richie Warboy, under the band name Electric Alice. So even the main song for the TV pilot that is quote unquote performed by David's lead singer role in the fake band Atomic Pink Jellyfish, it's actually my band that's doing it. So we've got a lot of like craziness, and we even have hints and Easter eggs in the music and in the songs, that we hope by the, fingers crossed, this gets sold, bought and sold and produced, that by the end of episode 10, people will start to like see the patterns and be like, oh my God, there was a hint in that song, and, we didn't even know it.
Yeah, literally everything, every note of music, every lyric, every things that characters say even are all often clues to other things. So it's pretty complex and layered actually, which is great. But so we have to control the music as well. I mean, I don't think there's anything we aren't doing on this between us somewhere.
Sounds great. Rock and roll and horror go together super well. I was in a heavy metal band for 15 years and did a lot of touring in the United States and stuff. And it's cool that the idea of a touring musician killing his fans like on tour. That's pretty awesome.
Well, I mean, that's the main idea from the pilot. That's where you first meet all of the characters. But that's probably the least crazy episode out of all of them, I would say. Alice, wouldn't you?
It most certainly is. It's an episode of Muppet Babies compared to what even happens in even by the end of the pilot episode. I think we really just put a little shocker there at the end for people to take this journey, because it really is. It's about these group of barely graduated high school teenage boys in 1976 that decide to travel around finding obscure underground metal and rock bands to interview in the spirit of Cream magazine and Spinal Tap. And the first band they come across is Atomic Pink Jellyfish, and the interview with the lead singer Killer Joe.
Nice. I love the all original music and stuff you're planning for this too. It's all cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a different way of doing things, but I was really inspired by the marketing of Blair Witch Project when it first came out, because I was in internet and internet advertising, working at WashingtonPost.com. And, back then, when something was on the internet, it was deemed to be true. So they had done.
Alice, sorry, are you saying that's not the case now?
It's 50-50.
Oh, okay, 50-50.
But they did such an amazing job making it look real. And, I was from the East Coast, DC metro, area. So it was in my backyard, taking place in Maryland. And, they had interviews with, people in the town, and they had missing, posters online. And it was simply one of the most brilliant uses of a new technology and platform, because most people still didn't even have a computer in their home, let alone internet, even at work. So it has always stuck with me, and I've always been in the corporate business world and marketing and advertising and sales. So I really saw this as also another way of having just an amazing way of making money, even getting retro, branded products in the series, whether it's like cars or clothes or drinks or food. There's such a big push for retro stuff like 80s with Stranger Things. So I'm really a child of the 70s, so I decided to go backwards a little bit more. And because to me, that really is the best place for, music is the 1970s. So it was absolutely the most outrageous. So there was no way I could do this in any other era.
Right. Yeah. Definitely outrageous stuff in the 70s when it comes to music, and pretty much everything was kind of outrageous back then. I'm a child of the late 90s. I'm not late 90s, late 80s, 90s kid. That's me. So I grew up with like a new wave and start of heavy metal and all that stuff and stuff I listen to now. So
But you also grew up though, like I'm kind of in between the two of you. I think I was a sort of early '80s kid, but what an era for really cheesy bad horror films as well. So not only did you have rock and roll and some great anthemic rock and roll as well, from people like Alice Cooper and Whitesnake, which was kind of, I guess, the more fashionable stuff, because that's, it's kind of entry level rock and roll, isn't it? That type of thing. Certainly for me, it was in the early 80s. But you look back at that era and you look at some of the really bad horror films that you used to love. There's loads of them. It was a great era for film and for music.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. The 80s, like, it's probably still my favorite era for horror movies. Yeah, I know most of them are cheesy, but they're all like practical effects. They're all like made by the masters, John Carpenter, like,
yeah,
you name it, they made it back then. Like the 90s kind of left you wanting more. There's still a few good things here and there, but the 80s, man, that was something magical.
Yeah. I also drew a lot of inspiration from like White Zombie, Rob Zombie, and his look. And I love White Zombie. And he's very big into horror, so there's a lot of inspiration from that as well. For the character Killer Joe.
That's killer. Yeah, Rob Zombie's definitely he's got that look, that outrageous like rocker look. He's one of the first to really start doing that in the kind of modern times. So that's a good one to like base your character off of. So.
But it's also great because we were influenced by so many great films from that era as well. And Alice and I have got very similar tastes in the things that we like. But the thing I think that makes what we do stand out most is that we really love our characters. And if there's one thing I hate about horror films, is how throwaway all the characters are, and also how sexually and racially stereotypical they are, right? So women always scream. The hero is always a white guy, and it's always the same. And if you look back through most of those 80s horror films now, they're actually quite bad for a lot of reasons. And what we're trying to do is kind of readdress the balance of it, but still keep the kind of cool cheesiness of the 80s and the 70s,
Right. That's cool. I like that. I think that's a good way of thinking. Definitely we need a change in certain horror films, and especially nowadays and stuff. I think it'd be really cool to have that kind of
it's not just horror films. I've seen some 1970s BBC. That's our main broadcaster over here, the BBC. I don't know if you've heard of Doctor Who. It's quite a big thing over here. It's coming up. It's been on TV for 60 years. It's crazy, right? But they used to dress white actors up as Chinese people. And you kind of watch these things now, and it's just so bad and so wrong. And of course, TV's moved on a lot since then. Everything's changed. But, we have a philosophy at Cordell Productions that we really, really care about getting that stuff right and getting characters to be more true. We don't want stereotypical, the woman screams, the guy's the hero. We want to mix it up and make it far more like real life is.
That's killer. I'm way down with that.
But set back then, when it was...
Our characters are really great. We've got a great actors. The actors that I had gotten to play the roles during the table read are really what have inspired how we have progressed with this. I mean, we write with them in mind, so much to the point that we actually call them in real life by their character names. Like we can't even stop it. It's ridiculous. And they've really become like family. And we're just so excited, in January when we're finally gonna all be able to be together. We're all like 5,000 miles apart. We've got David in England. We've got, 2 guys in New York. We've got someone in Tennessee. We've got 3 of us in Oregon. So we're an international team. We've got, staff in California, Oklahoma, Virginia. So we're a really great team with our production company, Cordell Productions, and everybody that's part of Cordell is involved with John Sunshine on some level.
Hmm. That's killer. From what you're telling me, it reminds me a lot of what Spectrevision's doing. Are y'all familiar with Spectrevision films?
Yeah.
I'm extremely familiar with Spectrevision, actually,
Nice.
because I'm a Legion M member and investor, and
Me
they
too.
do. Yeah. Well, there you go. So yes, I am very familiar with Spectrevision. Some of the, Mandy, is such a great film,
Oh yes.
and I am such a huge Adam Egypt Mortimer fan.
Hmm.
Um, and in fact, we kind of announced it once on Twitter, but I actually purchased the coat worn by Joe in Arch Enemy,
Oh, nice.
as Max Fist, and Killer Joe is
I
going to
get to
wear
wear it. I get to wear it.
Oh, that's so
Fantastic.
badass.
in the TV pilot, or in the show, and in the TV pilot. So I have it in my closet right now. And so we are. I mean, I am just so excited because Arch Enemy was absolutely my favorite movie of 2020. Um, and then I watched Daniel Isn't Real and just was blown away by that. So yeah, I love Spectrevision. I love all the stuff that is put out by them, and I'm definitely, knock on wood, trying to get their attention.
They're super nice people. I don't know if you listened to my interviews with Adam, and I also interviewed Daniel Noah earlier this year. I don't know if y'all checked those out or not, but man, they're super cool people. Like Daniel made Daniel made one of my favorite films, which is not Daniel. Daniel Noah made Mandy, which is one of my favorite films. And then
Yep,
Adam E. Mortar made Daniel Isn't Real, which is another one of my favorite films. And like Spectre Vision's this amazing company.
they really are. I've seen everything that they've put out. I've got my Mandy Funko Pops and my Mandy Legion M swag, and I have my Arch Enemy special stuff.
The
So
funny thing is about them, they would totally get what we're doing, wouldn't they? They will totally get
oh
John's
my God,
Sunshine's Lost Rock and Roll tapes.
yes, especially Adam, I think would absolutely love John Sunshine. Um, Hopefully, I actually did the short film that I'm an executive producer of, Curiosity. Joe Reitman was in that as well.
Mhm.
So, and he was in Arch Enemy. Um, so, and actually, a funny story is because I came up with the idea right before I went to LA for the filming of Curiosity, and that's how I got the name Killer Joe, was because of Joe Reitman. So
Nice.
it's just like a weird like circle of of stuff, and so we kind of come full circle now.
So basically,
Yeah.
the true story behind it is as layered as our 10 episode TV series.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited hearing about all this. Like I said, the like it sounds so much like what Spectre Divisions want to do, and I back them 100%. Like having another company out there doing what y'all are going to be doing, I think that's just great, and we need more of it.
Well, every episode has its own band as well, so we get to experiment with some very, very different music styles from the '70s, and they're all a bit mad. I mean, I don't think it would be giving too much away to say we have a band that are purely puppets in one of the episodes, and you're not allowed to speak to the puppeteers. You have to speak to the puppets, and that episode goes off a cliff. I can't even tell you what's in that episode because it would just. I can't believe I even wrote it. We've got sea creatures in one episode. We've got witches in another. It's like every single episode has got a kind of fantasy element to it that is both ridiculous at times, filled with horror, and almost always catastrophic. And it's amazing how much chaos we fit into a 30-minute episode. It's insane. It is really insane. So we get to experiment a lot, and I know Alice likes that because Alice is very musical. She absolutely adores coming out with all this different type of music. So and so does Richie, our music director. So it's going to be great fun doing things like having a music video at the end of each episode, for example, with the band that was in the episode. So
Nice.
we're hoping to attract lots of rather left field bands to come and help us perhaps in some of the episodes. A good chance for them to get involved and do some of the crazy stuff. We've even named the songs. We know what the songs are going to be. We know the names of all the band members. It's crazy. The level of detail we've gone to is nuts.
Yeah, and actually, episode 2, when I started writing it originally, I really envisioned the band Greta Van Fleet being the band, because I am just such a huge fan of theirs, and they really encapsulate the spirit of the 1970s rock music. And so, if this gets picked up, that would absolutely be my dream. I would love to see Josh play the lead role, Freight Fairy, in our episode 2. So fingers crossed on that.
Yeah, that would be killer. Definitely fingers crossed.
Well, hang on a minute. If you were in a band, we'll get you in for one of the episodes. You can come in and do something.
Oh man, I kind of retired from all that. Like I haven't done band stuff in like 2 years. We're
It's
together
okay.
for like almost
We'll-
20. So
We'll bring you back for the Muppet episode. Don't worry. Sorry, they're not Muppets. For legal reasons, they are not Muppets, but they are similar.
if y'all
Yeah.
can make me into a werewolf Muppet type character, that would be pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
With that.
We haven't got to the werewolf episode yet, but it's
We
coming.
have.
Oh, so there's gonna be a werewolf episode, eh?
Maybe not in season 1. We have to save some of our ideas.
Season 1 is chock full of all of our, the people that we're already going to do, but we have already discussed in other things that we have written doing werewolf episodes. So I definitely want to do that. I don't think that there's enough werewolf stuff out there right now.
100% agreed on that. And supposedly right now,
not good werewolf stuff. In fact, my very first horror film that I ever watched that scared the living bejesus out of me was a film called Silver Bullet, which you probably never heard of.
oh, I have.
Oh, you've heard of it? Oh my
Yeah,
god,
Stephen
it's
King's
such a
Silver
good film.
Bullet. Yes, it's one of my
It
favorites.
scared me so much that I slept with a toy gun under my bed for about 10 years afterwards, just in case. But it's such a great horror film because what it does is, and it's Stephen King, I think, wrote it. It was based on one of others. But the twist in it is fantastic, and it's really dark and really, really creepy. And that was my first ever horror film. So I would love to do a decent werewolf film because I honestly can't think of a really great one. Well, there's 2 that I really love: American Werewolf in London, and there's a British film called Dog Soldiers, which is a fantastic horror film.
Yep. Funny thing with Silver Bullet, that was based off the Stephen King short story Cycle of the Werewolf.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
if you haven't read that one, it's killer.
Yeah, it was. That was a novella, wasn't it? It was like a short novel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Silver Bullet. But let me ask you this: like with Silver Bullet, what scared you more, Gary Busey or the werewolf?
It was when you saw the priest with his eye patch.
Oh, okay. I figured it might be Gary Busey being the abusive uncle, the uncle character.
I think Gary Busey
uncle.
is scary at the best of times, frankly. So I think whenever I see Gary Busey, I shudder.
Yeah.
But in that film, no. For me, it was the moment where the priest turned around and you saw the eye patch on him, and you knew. That was absolutely horrifying for me.
Yes, most definitely. And then you said Dog Soldiers too. That was another really killer werewolf movie. I love the design of the werewolves in there, man. Like they're so tall and lanky and really animalistic, all practical.
It's an absolutely brilliant film, yeah. And quite a low budget film as well, but really well done.
Yeah, that was on my I'm not sure if I released this episode yet, so if I didn't, here's a slight spoiler. But I did a top 10 favorite werewolf movie. Pretty sure, yeah, I already released this one. This one came out like a month or so ago. My friend Mike Hill. We went over like top 5 or top 10 werewolf movies, and that was on the list, man. Like, you should definitely check that out if you haven't. It's a pretty cool episode.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm up for that. Especially if there's other good werewolf movies I haven't seen. So I'm up for
Yeah,
that.
we got some kind of like hidden gems in there that you may have not seen before. Like, have you ever seen Bad Moon?
I think I might have done that. Rings a bell.
It was an early '90s kind of
Yeah,
under the radar werewolf movie, but so fucking good.
yeah. Those are always the best ones. The
Hmm.
under the radar ones. The ones you don't appreciate when they come out, but you find them 5, 10 years later and watch them then and then love them.
If y'all want a more recent werewolf movie that came out probably like maybe 5 years ago now, I could be wrong. It's called Howl, Howl, and I
Yeah.
believe it's on Tubi or Shudder right now. I think it might be on
Brilliant.
Tubi now, but that's a good one.
Fantastic. Well, we will definitely write a homage to the werewolf genre in one of our episodes at some point, no doubt.
I'm way down with that. Yeah, they're saying right now, like in all the publications and all that, it's a werewolf revolution about to happen. So it'd be a good time now to get in on that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of did it in True Blood for TV, and in the films they did it in, oh, what was that endless films that were the kind of teen. Sorry, what was that, Alice?
Twilight.
Yeah, Twilight. So they sort of did it in there, but it was so unsatisfying. Like, if you're gonna have a werewolf in a film, you need it to literally rip someone's arms and legs off horribly, and go nuts, because that's the whole point of a werewolf, right? You don't want them to be teenage hunks.
No.
You want them to be the priest.
Yeah, and don't turn into dogs. Like I hate that. I'm not a fan of the dog werewolf. You know what I mean? Like a
Yeah,
werewolf.
yeah.
Werewolf. Either on 2 legs or be like a beast type werewolf, but don't look like a
Yeah,
damn coyote or a dog. Just don't do it for me.
yeah, I agree.
So if I was Dashko, what's your top 5 horror movies? What do y'all think about that? Who wants to go first on that? Top 5 favorite horror movies. I know it might be kind of hard because just give
Okay,
me
no, I could do it. I'll chuck a couple in for me. I think A Nightmare on Elm Street, and the reason I say that is I've had a recurring Freddy Krueger nightmare now for about 30 years, where he's chasing me through a car park, a car lot, and it's an absolute nightmare. Every time I have it, I'm in cold sweats, and I think it's real, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh, come on, this is from 35 years ago. Can you move on? So that's got to be in there. I think Paranormal Activity, because it did for horror what Blair Witch did. Very low budget, very clever, very spooky. Amityville, because the original Amityville movie was really, for me, really, really scary. There's a bit in there where the main father, I can't remember his name, the priest is in a room, and you start seeing flies gather and the window shuts and the voice just says, "Get out," like that. It's really awful, but it's one of my favorite movie moments. So I've got 3 in there. You can kick one out, Alice, if you've got a better 3.
Actually, I
Definitely was gonna say Nightmare on Elm Street. That's definitely in my top. Blair Witch Project, The Exorcist,
Oh, of course, The Exorcist has to go in there.
Alien.
Yeah, do we count that? Is that sci-fi? Is it horror?
No, I definitely count that as horror. Definitely horror. Sci-fi horror, but it's horror.
yeah.
Okay. I'm happy for that to go in then,
You know, I know,
but not at the expense of any of the others. This is a top 10 now.
yeah.
So yeah, those ones are among my favorite. I can tell you my absolute least favorite, and that is Halloween 3.
Oh, I love that movie.
Is that the season of the witch?
Yeah.
I saw that in the theater as a preteen, and it was a packed theater. I mean, it was probably the most packed I've been in a theater, and it was absolutely horrifying. And to this day, anytime somebody starts singing that song, I have PTSD over it. That's my Freddy nightmare.
And this is a time of the year for that. Today's October 1st. Like you're gonna be hearing that a lot, man. Like Halloween 3 is a big October movie, you know.
I know. That's what I'm afraid of.
It's coming. I also like some of the creative horror. Like I like the original Saw movie. I thought, and some of the sequels are okay. I like Final Destination. I think that's really very cool if you count that as a horror movie
Oh
because
yeah,
it's
most
very
definitely.
creative. You know, it's very modern type of horror. Um, but I could tell you my least favorite horror film of all time. How about that?
Go for it.
Hostel. Is it Hostel? Yeah, Hostel. You know the one where they go to Eastern Europe and oh,
Hmm.
but you must have seen Hostel. I've
Oh
forgotten
yeah,
what
yeah,
the
yeah,
guy's.
yeah. Seen
Hostel
all three
Two.
of them.
But the reason I hate Hostel 2 is because it's basically horror porn. It's gore porn, and it's so gruesome, but it's not. It doesn't scare you. It's just so gruesome. And I have a thick stomach. I can see anything. I mean, as Alice will tell you, I've written most of it in the last few
Hmm.
episodes of John Sunshine. But I think gore porn doesn't interest me. I'm not interested in that at all. If it's done like Saw, where it's very clever, and actually the whole point is it's a very clever trap and it's quite ingenious, someone's really had to think through that. I can kind of cope with it, but it was just so grim, and it wasn't fun to watch at all. And I hate the film. And so Hostel 2 actually, Hostel I quite liked, but Hostel 2 was just too much for me. I don't know. It put me off that kind of horror.
Yeah, it's not my favorite type of horror either. I'm not a. I mean, I'll watch like Hostel one's cool. Hostel two, I didn't really care for. Three, I didn't care for. I'm more into like really like what I truly like are like actual monster movies. But
Yeah,
they're kind of few and far between nowadays.
they don't
But
make them, do they?
not really.
I
And
You know,
can't
especially
remember.
I would love to do more of that. I think that those are so much fun. So write that down on our list of things to
Yeah,
do.
it goes on the list. Yeah, we'll take that. Brandon, you can get a credit on that one for
nice.
inspiring us.
I'll tell you one of the last great monster movies. Like it kind of flew under the radar. Well, nowadays I know it's under the radar. People, it's from the '90s. People don't really know what's going on with that. But it was the Relic. You ever seen the Relic?
Yes,
That was a killer monster movie.
it was great. Yeah, really good, and quite original. It came from nowhere, like it just turned up, didn't it? And
Hmm.
I think I saw that at the cinema actually. I
Yeah, I
can't
believe
remember
I did
why I
too.
went. Yeah, which is rare for me. I don't normally watch horror films in the cinema, but I think I was on my own one afternoon. I had nothing to do, and I walked past and thought, you know what, I'm going to watch a film. And it was all they had on in this little cinema, and I loved it. Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah, I wish we had more of those type films. Like, even though I say monster films are my favorite, Mandy is my all-time favorite movie. Like, and, it's not a monster film, but Mandy's on a whole nother level. Like, you can't really classify what Mandy is. Mandy's
Really?
its own thing.
Well, yeah, Mandy most definitely is its own thing, and Nick Cage was just amazing in it. Uh, and yeah, I don't even know what to say about Mandy, to be honest. You just buckle up and go along with for the ride, really.
Do you know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel out of place here because I haven't seen it, which is terrible, right? So
Oh, that's good though. You get to see it and witness it for yourself
I
now.
know that I'm just excited about this now. So while I'm talking to you, I'm looking at my phone at Netflix and I'm trying to see if they've got it on there because that will be my late night viewing if that's the case.
I know it's on Shutter, but I don't know about overseas
Ah,
if what you have on Shutter, but it is on Shutter here. So.
all right, I'll find it. Don't you worry. I'm going to watch that tonight before bed. I feel the need for a horror film tonight.
And to really experience it, if you, as long as you're not living next to shitty neighbors, turn that volume as far as it goes up on whatever entertainment system you have. Like you want to be able to feel Mandy. Like it's an experience, man. I'm telling you.
Hang on, was this Mandy? I've got one here with Nicolas Cage, right?
Yes, yeah,
Ah, well, what could possibly go wrong with that?
it's amazing.
Okay, I'm in. It's
Nick,
rented. It's being
Yeah,
watched tonight.
Nick
Another one
Cage
converted.
just that it's the Funko Pops for Mandy are the only ones that he's ever approved of in any movie he's ever done.
Wow. And I have those. I got them. I ordered them straight from Legion M when they went on pre-order and stuff, and I also ordered 2 boxes of the Cheddar Goblin macaroni.
I ordered 4 pops and got 4 boxes of the Goblin cheddar mac and cheese. So, because my daughter and her boyfriend are also Legion M members and investors, and we love Mandy, so I got them their own set and a set for me. So
That's cool.
I've just thought of a horror film, guys, that we haven't mentioned. The Thing.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
My funny story about that, when I was little, I watched the black and white version, The Thing from Outer Space, and it was absolutely awful. But we watched it on a black and white TV, because of course you had those back then. And me and my little sister were in a bunk bed, and we were watching it. And my sister still remembers this now. She was only about 7 or 8, I think. And she had a nightmare that night about someone leaving cabbages outside her window, because the special effects in that, it was basically someone covered in cabbage leaves. And she still has nightmares now about someone leaving cabbages outside her bedroom window. And I don't know why, but she's absolutely petrified of this dream. And 30 years later, she's still scared of cabbages.
My first horror nightmare that I still have is I could think I was in 2nd grade, and I was at a neighbor's house that maybe babysat me before school, and it was they were showing a bunch of old Dracula movies.
Oh, the Christopher Lee ones. Hammer horror.
And
the Hammer horror ones.
The really old ones.
Yeah, so is it like, oh right, okay, cool.
Yeah. And so for weeks I just kept dreaming about Dracula showing up.
Ugh.
And one thing that I remember is I opened up a box of crayons, and Dracula was the black crayon. And that has stuck with me ever since 2nd grade. Yeah, I was initially terrified of Dracula.
Wow.
But I think there's something I like being scared of things. And I think there's something, a lot of people don't like horror films, they can't cope. But for me, I think I get my adrenaline hit from watching horror that's scary. But for me, it's not the gore, it's the things that make you jump. I remember there was a bit in one of the Jurassic Park films where everyone in the row of the cinema jumped when this thing snapped at someone's feet, and I remember it came from nowhere. So I think those are the things that are really clever when you do horror, and you really have to know those tropes. And the really good horror filmmakers, they will fool you. They will make you think something is going to happen because you know what happens when the music goes like that, or or when the person goes, "I'm just going to take a look at the bottom of the garden and see what's down there." You know something's going to get them. But when it doesn't get them, it's even more scary because it's still going to get them at some point, So I think one of the clever things about writing horror, and I've written a horror film as well, is that you have to really understand how horror films work. And it's all the music. It's almost always the music. And the patient build-up of fear, because something's coming. Something that a film, I don't think it's a horror film, probably not. Sixth Sense did really well.
Mm-hmm.
It just built up, and then you see this kid brushing his teeth, and someone whooshes past him in the mirror, and I have a heart attack now just thinking about that for some reason.
I jumped at that. I literally just jumped thinking about that. Yeah. The movie Black Swan was very good for doing that as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's I would definitely consider that, a horror, a thriller horror film. And yeah, I really, really loved that. Built up, just amazing. I really, prefer, the psychological thrillers that,
Yeah.
like what's going to happen, or the anxiety is built up so much. You're just like, would you just do something already? I don't know if you've checked out 20 Seconds to Live.
I don't think so.
That is Ben Rock and Bob DeRosa
Hmm.
from Blair Witch. They had this, and their videos are actually online, but I think they were shown on Shudder too. I think they had the show was on Shudder, and they basically have like a minute long little episodes where they set up the situation, and then they have a clock countdown that starts at 20 seconds and counts down. So stuff is going to happen. And there's one of their episodes that involves a goldfish that just you do not know what's going to happen. You think you know, and you don't know. And it's just like the anxiety builds up, and then you're like, oh my God, it's over. But they do it so great in 20 seconds. It's absolutely brilliant.
I have to make a note of that. I don't think I've seen it, but I see so many things. I keep track on my Internet Movie Database app because I watch so much shit. So I have to go in there and rate it and stuff like, oh, I did see that. So I have to go back and check, but it doesn't sound familiar to me, but it sounds cool.
Yeah, they're on there's just check out their Twitter at 20 Seconds to Live.
Hmm.
Then you can, figure out where you can watch them at. But they're great.
Good
I
one. Yeah.
think what really helps our writing, Alice and I, is that we've got a really eclectic taste in films. So we like every type of film. It's not just horror. We like films where we care about the characters. Like one of my favourite films is Planes, Trains and Automobiles,
Nice.
because it's just such a beautifully made film. And one of the things I've learned in writing certainly is that if you watch Planes, Trains and Automobiles, all the small characters are brilliant. They are so funny. Every single one is crazy. It's almost like they made an effort to try and get them to steal the scene every time there was a character in there for just a minute or 60 seconds, 120 seconds, I don't know. So it's done really well. So one of the other things that we do when we're writing is whenever we have a small character, any character, we always try and make them memorable. So if you read one of our scripts, you'll soon realize that because everything's memorable, you don't know what matters and what doesn't. So we've kind of learned to do that kind of build-up thing, where you're not sure if these characters mean something else or if they're going to turn up and do something bigger. If you just don't know because everything that we write matters. But it makes it really interesting to write because even Alice and I don't know what if some of these characters are important or not. Not yet.
Right.
Yeah, that is definitely true. One of the things that makes David and I a little bit different is our writing process and writing style. We kind of wrote out an episode guide
Yeah.
based on the first, the pilot and the episode 2, which was, half written before we did the episode guide. And so we knew kind of the direction we wanted to go in. And suddenly, like before we got to episode 3, I was like, oh, you know what? I have something for the end of episode 9. And so then the end of episode 9 went into episode 10, which is just a giant crazy loop that has impact all throughout the other episodes. That's
It's
why,
like it's like a horror version of Back to the Future 2.
Ooh, nice.
it really is. And because it takes place in the 70s and present day across generations, and you never know who may show up in the present day and in what condition. It's just, yeah, it's simply that outrageous. But I know. Um, but what has happened is that we just write. Like one of us will be like, okay, I have an idea to get us
to, X point. And we'll just write and then send it to the other person. And then that person will edit and add to it. And so we don't outline anything. We don't, we're not sitting there going, oh, well, what is this person going to do? We just let them do what they're going to do.
Yeah, it's really important.
And it's just so amazing because one of our actors, our music director, his role is so important. We've shared some of the future episodes with him. And when he reads his character, he will be like, how did they know I would say that? So like, I literally have said that my entire life. So we have gotten to where, our characters, all of them have their own voice.
Yeah.
We really have no control over them anymore. I know that's weird, but it's true. I mean, whatever comes out of us, it's like none of our main characters are ever out of character, no matter who they.
Nice.
Do you know what's really funny is the things we do. These actors, when they get to read these later episodes, are either going to think we're the best writers on the planet, or they're going to hate us, because some of the things we put their characters through, I can honestly say have probably never been seen on television before.
No, words that should not go together, that make other words that people have never said before. Oh, yeah, we've already apologized in advance to our actors for any that they may have to have, and if we're successful, to be fair, Cordell Productions would love to offer our actors and employees medical and health insurance to cover the therapy that they're going to need to get through this.
Years of therapy.
I know. Yeah, we just have such an outrageous time, talking about the characters and what they're going to do and coming up with new stuff, and then going back and going, okay, well, how do we connect, those two things together? Because, some of the ideas are just so amazing that we can't not do them. It's like, oh yeah, they fill a big hole that we didn't even realize, was there. So that's always great fun to do.
Nice. It sounds like this is going to be a blast when, everything gets filmed, and like I can't wait to watch it when it's done and stuff.
Do you know the most amazing part of the day is when, for both of us, which is, I don't know if that makes us sad or not, but it's when we get the latest version of the script back off of the other person who's been working on it, because it is such a thrill to read it. Because we trust each other with our writing, we allow each other to rewrite what we've written, and we don't get upset at all. We just get on with it. But it's so exciting when you get it through and you're reading it, because I don't really know what's going to happen to those characters in that episode until it's been handed to me, and then I've got to finish off or add another few pages or whatever. And it's the best moment, because we have a rule that when you receive the script, you have to give live feedback on WhatsApp on whether you're liking every line pretty much or not as you go. And it's so exciting, honestly. It's so much fun writing this.
Yeah, it really is. In fact, I had Ricky visit me like a week and a half ago, and he and I got to stand next to each other and read episode 5, which David mostly wrote himself. And it was so spectacular. We just could not contain ourselves. So it was pretty much like just message after message after message to David,
doing live feedback, giving both of our reactions. And it was just, what was very funny is that Richie would read like the action or the dialogue of the other characters, and then he would react in his, like how he would react. and then he would get to how his character would react, and it was the exact same way. So
Mhm.
I got to literally see that happen live.
Brilliant.
Watch, and we just, I will tell you, if this thing gets made and we don't get an Emmy nod for episode 5, there's something wrong in the world, because it is absolutely some of the best writing I've ever read in my life.
It will either be an Emmy or prison, one or the other.
That's excellent.
Well, to be fair, there will be a psych evaluation before that.
We can probably plead insanity, to be fair.
Miserably.
Nice. Well, could y'all tell everybody once again where they can help fund this project and stuff, or they know where to help out with?
Yeah. So we'll be on Seed and Spark under John Sunshine TV pilot. That should go live next week. The first week of October. I'm not sure when this is heard. But following us on Twitter at Alice N. Wells and Forever Keogh, and at John Sunshine TV, and at Cordell_PRODS. Those are our main Twitter handles. And that's where most of our, news about fundraising and our project is going to be.
Excellent. And yeah, every time y'all post something new, I share it from my social pages as well. Mostly my Twitter. I might do Instagram as well. I get most of my reactions and stuff, like more positive stuff off of Twitter. I don't know why. I get a little bit better reach on there, but I definitely share that around for you and stuff. And whenever I do post this episode, I'm not sure when that's going to be, but I have everything that you just told me inside, like the information, below and stuff for the podcast. So.
Well, if we get this made, maybe what we can do at some point, Brandon, is try and get your podcast listeners to maybe suggest some things for an episode or something, because if we get this made, that'll be something really, really cool to do, to get some people to be able to persuade us to pick up a particular horror genre or monster type or whatever. So when we get a bit more advanced, we'll make sure that we give your listeners a chance to get involved as well.
Most definitely, that's a great idea. I'm down. So if you're listening and stuff, start getting some ideas in your head, throwing out.
And Brandon Legion is such a great name that I feel we have to have a character in one of the episodes called Brandon Legion now.
I'm down. I actually that's my stage name, and I've had that stage name for almost like 18 years now.
The only thing is, Brandon, if you end up in one of our episodes, there's a pretty big chance you won't survive the episode. So I'm just warning you now.
I've been killed off in a movie before. I was in a horror movie called Science Team. This was like maybe 10 years ago, and I had my head explode in there. So.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, and the fake blood tasted great. It was made with chocolate syrup. So.
Nice. Actually, David really wants Death by Combine Harvester.
Yeah, Combine Harvester is the way I want to go.
So,
I've seen that done in a couple Alien movies before, some like kind of low budget ones, but it was done pretty well. I can't remember names. That's a good way to go.
Completely painless, absolutely spectacular. That's how it's going to be for me.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, it was really great talking with y'all, man. I'm glad y'all came on the podcast. I'm super excited about what you're doing. So.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it and taking the time, and thank you, David, for being on with me.
Yeah, and we'll keep you updated with what's going on, Brandon. We'll make sure that and if we're feeling particularly kind, we might actually send you a script at some point so you can see the craziness that's going on inside.
Excellent. I'm definitely down to read it. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. And yeah, we'll be sharing. We have our pitch video ready, and we're waiting for the fundraising site to be approved by Seed and Spark. But we're also developing a trailer sizzle that's really, really spectacular so far. The audio is amazing for it. I've listened to it a bunch of times, and it's very exciting. So we'll be, getting that out to people in the next week or so.
Excellent. Well, you have full support from me and hopefully full support from my listeners. So,
well, thanks, buddy. Really appreciate that. And remember, it's what was it, John? What's the Twitter handle for John Sunshine again, Alice? You always remember this. I never remember it.
John Sunshine TV.
Perfect. There you go. Everyone can find it on there.
excellent. Well, I hope you all have a killer weekend. It was great talking with you.
Yeah, great talking with you too, man. Take care, and goodbye from England.
Goodbye from South Carolina.
In Oregon.
Bye, guys.
Take it easy.
Bye.